Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the REC podcast, brought to you by the REC Toy Cast. I'm your host, Roman Chavez, and with me, as always,
Eric Icarus.
And today, we have another special guest in our week of special guests. We have the Big Tuna himself, Jordan Tunney.
Hello.
Ooh, hello. Yeah. All right. We got some news we want to talk about today. There's some good casting news going on. And, Jordan, I think I'll have you head this up with the Spider-Man news.
Yeah,
well,
so...
Venom news, I
The
guess.
Venom news, yeah. So with the Venom movie obviously being a big financial success, it resonated pretty well with the fans. I think it was a little bit of a tough sell because a lot of times Venom has always been packaged with Spider-Man. But because of the success of the first one, they're obviously doing a second one. Spoiler alert, in the first one, they laid the groundwork for Carnage to enter the universe. Woody Harrelson had a cameo role. And the reported news coming out today is that the director, Ruben Fleischer, has said not only is Woody Harrelson confirmed to be Carnage as the villain in the second one, but he'll be joined by another villain from the pulling from that Spider-Man universe, and that is Shriek.
Shriek. Did they announce a person for Shriek?
I don't know if I saw a casting for it.
Okay.
I did see a little bit of a description about backstory about how these characters like kind of interact and kind of the symbiote relationship. But it sounds like it was just confirming that it's going to be kind of one of these multiple antagonistic sort of movies. Which honestly sometimes superhero movies get bogged down when they just add villains for villain's sake. So if it makes sense in the story, if it's a good addition, I get that. One of my critiques of Venom was that Venom and Riot they were just so similar because their alien entities were so similar that the fighting wasn't terribly... it was visually interesting, but it wasn't terribly exciting because it was like sword on sword.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So I'd like to meet, and I know that Shriek has like sonic powers, like with a screech, obviously with the name. So that might add like another layer to it. But he also said that the hope and goal is that these storylines will bring Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man, it's face to face with Venom, and whether or not it's a Batman vs Superman, because they've established Venom as kind of this anti-hero, where he's a kind of like he'll eat a bad guy. He's not going to go out there and like eat a school bus full of kids, you know. So whether or not they do that kind of mashup, obviously they own the properties, so that was always, I'm sure, always the goal in the cards in some way. So on the one hand, not surprising. On the other hand, it's just good to see the ball moving forward.
Totally. We're not big fans of this Venom movie here at the REC podcast. I just feel like this sets up for a lot more of the same, because I'll just say it now, what's going to happen? You're going to have Carnage and Shriek versus Venom. Venom's not going to be able to handle it, so he's going to have to get his woman involved, give her part of the symbiote, and then they're going to have this foursome fight. And I'm already off. I don't know. Because I didn't think that any of that CGI was very good in Venom. I didn't think that the Riot was just, this is just fat Venom. I don't know. There was nothing. I don't care about the news. However, I did like Woody Harrelson at the end of at the end of the film. So I'll watch it for Woody Harrelson, because I hope that he's awesome in it.
Yeah.
Or maybe I hope that he's not awesome and they'll just stop and just put me out of my misery. I don't know. Eric, Shriek love.
I vaguely aware of the character.
Yeah.
So
visually, she's awesome.
Yeah, she's cool looking.
But not as much as a Scream or anything. So, and then from the DC universe, because we do like to be bipartisan at times here at the podcast. Zoe Kravitz has been cast in Matt Reeves' The Batman as Catwoman. We're having a diversity casting, it seems, again. And I'm not like a huge fan of Zoe Kravitz, but I do like... I think she would look good in short hair. I do. I don't find Zoe Kravitz attractive by any means, but I can see what they're trying to do.
Meow.
Yeah. Are you a Zoe Kravitz fan at all?
More a fan of her father's work.
Sure, yes,
you
yes.
know, good old Lenny. But no, I mean, yeah, she obviously, you know, she has a small body of work. She was in X-Men First Class, where she was kind of one of many, so she really didn't stand out in terms of her character or anything like that. You know, they've made a few moves. Obviously, Jeffrey Wright being in negotiations to be playing Commissioner Gordon, and then Jonah Hill's cast in this undisclosed villain role, and there's some rumors.
I thought he was going to be Catwoman. So
No, I mean, I think I think Matt Reeves, knowing his body of work,
Yes.
and you know, and you
We're
and I,
fans.
we've gone back with him, you know. You know, I think that he's looking for the right people to play the type of role, because you could pick almost any actress and they're going to play Catwoman a certain way.
Yeah.
So part of me feels like trust the process, and just because somebody doesn't have a large body of work doesn't mean they won't be a hit playing that type of role.
Sure.
You know, I mean, like, you know, going back, I never would have thought, knowing all of the work that Heath Ledger did prior to The Dark Knight, that he would have made the Joker that he made. And so maybe this is just another example of them getting people in, you know, casting director doing a screen test. Maybe, I mean, we're assuming that there's going to be a romantic relationship with Robert Pattinson's, you know, Bruce Wayne. So if they have that on-screen chemistry, that's really what I feel like Catwoman's going to need. Is that chemistry side. So it may be that she just clicked, and we'll see what we end up with.
Yeah, completely. The I really liked her in that. What was the second Fantastic Beasts?
Grindelwald.
The Crimes of
Grindelwald.
Grindelwald. Yeah, her character in there I thought was interesting, and I would like to see more of her. So I'm not against it by any means. I just I'm kind of okay with. A nobody is not the right term, but somebody with a smaller body of work, because then I really don't know how she's going to do it. I have no idea what she's going to bring to it. Whereas when Michael B. Jordan, I almost said Jordan B. Howard. That's weird. When Michael B. Jordan was Johnny Storm, I was like, I'm pretty sure I know how he's going to do this, and then he didn't do it any way that I thought could be done, and then broke it. But when he was going to be Killmonger, I was like, I know exactly what I'm going to get, and he did, you know, excellent.
Yeah.
Catwoman, Eric?
Oh, man, just another crappy casting, I guess.
Yeah, just not for you.
No,
and what we had talked about in that previous episode, you know, is this going to be a reboot of Batman Returns? I mean, you know, we don't know what Jonah Hill's supposed to be, but if the shoe fits,
sure.
If the umbrella fits, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm curious to see what they want to do with that. I like Matt Reeves' work. I'm excited for the prospect, but oh man, we will see.
Okay, if Matt Reeves is doing a remake to Batman Returns, Christopher Walken's still alive.
Yeah.
And so if Matt Reeves is listening to this, like, reach out, you know, I mean, what
was his name in the movie?
Max Schreck.
Max Schreck.
Yeah. Arguably one of the best lines in any Batman film when Bruce Wayne rips his mask off and he goes, you know, Bruce Wayne, why are you dressed as Batman? It's like, you know, I just like, it just nails it, you know. So I mean, that's the only thing that would really get me on board in that regard.
Yeah, I'm more excited for the Zoe Kravitz, just because they didn't really announce anybody for Shriek. But you know, we'll see. I'm at this point, we've talked about the Batman for so long and so much that, like, it's already starting to take the kind of the piss out of it for me. I need to see some costume designs. I need to know who Jonah Hill's going to be. Like, stop with the tease. Like, let's just get this going. You know, like, what are you guys doing? It's going to take. I mean, this was announced a year ago, and we're like just got some new castings. I don't know. It feels very bizarre. We have more comic book movies coming out, so I'm always super into that. But not everybody is. And Eric and I kind of touched on this a couple shows ago. But Martin Scorsese had some choice words, and not like he was being an uber jerk or anything, but he did say that, like, Marvel movies in general are not cinema. That he doesn't think. That these things are, you know, he doesn't understand why they're doing it. Jennifer Aniston came out, and I'm paraphrasing, and she said, somebody asked her if she would ever be in a Marvel movie. She said she doesn't think she would be. Nobody's asking you, but whatever. And you know, but she also said I miss the Meg Ryan days. Like she wants to see more romantic comedies, which was kind of her bread and butter in the late 90s and early 2000s. And I'm starting to wonder what the effect of comic book movie industry is having on the people who are now, like, this is the mainstream now, where at one point these comic book movies were the fringe, were the edges, and now it seems like, you know, we've had the most billion-dollar films in the year of 2019, and like 3 or 4 of them are comic book movies. And one of them is the highest-grossing movie of all time. So I'm wondering if this, since superheroes have become the norm, are we pushing certain people we're making a new fringe, and why we get something like the Joker that is more of a Scorsese-esque version of this character. You have people kind of looking, and then these guys who worked their way, the Scorseses, the Spielbergs who have issue, James Cameron as well, who kind of worked their way to be, you know, the arrow, the ship of the film industry, and then now it's like, well, you guys don't make comic book movies, so your movies are kind of on the edge here. We don't even consider your stuff isn't even breaking in the top 10s. And I'm wondering if if the industry has created new fringe people from old fringe people, and you know, you don't have to be, you know, you have guys like Scorsese and Spielberg who make these smaller movies. They kind of get in there, they get out, and then you pull the Russo brothers from TV, and then they're given the keys to the car, and they make these crazy movies now. I mean, now these guys who have done these films are able to do almost whatever they want. They're getting tons of TV gigs. They're getting, you know, very interesting big budgets, and they're not really missing at this point. And are they not earning their keep the way the old guard thinks? I'm curious what you guys think of that, Eric.
I mean, it's sort of like at that point where you said that it is the norm at the moment, and I think that's just good for everybody, because then it creates, like you said, a different fringe.
Yeah.
Out of the old fringe, so we're getting a different fringe with awesome people.
Yes.
It's gonna force these other directors and actors and actresses to create something new.
Yeah. Or
or maybe better what they're doing. So
I like that.
you know, I don't understand how Jennifer Aniston, who can say I'm paraphrasing her. She said it's poisoning the industry, or it's dissipating the industry, or something like that. And it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like your last 2 movies were the Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
I don't understand where she gets the
Audacity.
gall, the audacity to say something like that. Then I heard initially someone asked her a year ago, 6 months ago, she would do it. She said, "Oh yeah, I totally do it, or I'm open to it."
Mm-hmm.
And now I think she said that in hopes that Marvel or Disney would reach out. Oh yeah, Jennifer Aniston, let's get her cast in something.
Yeah.
And then no one called her.
Yeah.
So now she's backpedaling and saying, you know, not necessarily trash talking it, but downplaying.
I don't think I'd do
she
that.
said she doesn't want to live in green screen land. That was a quote of hers.
Yeah.
And it's like, fair enough, but, you know, then do something better.
Yeah.
Yeah, if this bothers you so much, then do something better with it.
Part of me wonders if there's an issue with Angelina Jolie going to be in the Eternals, and you know, her nemesis being in a Marvel movie, and she's like, and you know, and that's a petty thing. I don't actually think that's the issue, but
women are women.
Ooh, hot takes. I do like what you have to say about. I think it will, because at some point, and I think you're there more than I am, that you crave something original.
Sure.
And we are getting original takes, or at least original remixes. Right. You know, we have the blueprint of the comic, and then the DJs are the Russo brothers and the writers and everything like that. But we, you know, and I even think those guys are like, hey, these are great, but I got to do something different. You know, the Russos have 21 Bridges coming out. It's with Chadwick Boseman, but whatever. And it's. I like what you had to say. I do think that it's going to stoke those kind of embers on the outside to give us another interesting thing. I think that's why like Split and Get Out and what was the noise one? The monsters. Quiet Place.
Quiet Place.
I think that's why those things were so interesting, because even Split was still superhero-y, to quote Jordan Poole. Shout out to Jordan Poole. And but it's a different take on something that we haven't seen.
Sure.
And it was something that pre-existed in Unbreakable, but it's like we're getting, I don't know, we're gonna get really creative people having to try harder.
Yeah.
Because right now, if Spielberg puts out is going to helm something, a studio is going to back it.
Oh, of course.
It doesn't matter what it is. We've seen some flops from them. Same thing with Scorsese. Hell, Scorsese's got The Irishman coming out on Netflix. But I think that it's going to be better for the business, and it'll even itself out. It'll even itself out because people do have superhero fatigue. Sure. But when it looks cool and you just want to turn off for 2.5 hours, there's just nothing better.
Right.
There's nothing better. When I'm cleaning the house, I can have Age of Ultron just in the background. Sure. I can take a break from vacuuming or whatever, and it's a great release. And I can be like, oh, the Hulkbuster fight's gonna happen.
There you go.
And it is just it's just a good shot in the arm to do what else.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think it's unfair for Martin Scorsese. I know he's this, obviously he's a very acclaimed director. Mm-hmm. He's not the arbiter of an art form.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He might be a loud voice. He's not the only one.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is it's unfair to say that cinema is art.
Yes.
But it's a different kind of art. It's a commercial art. Mm-hmm. I mean, ultimately the goal is that your art is seen by people. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, no director can say with a straight face that they made a movie that they didn't intend anybody to see. Right? Yeah. So because of the commercial structure of the film business, I mean, we're not talking about Van Gogh making money every time somebody looks at one of his paintings, right? Mm-hmm. So when it comes to critiquing something and saying it's not art, mm-hmm. Maybe it doesn't have to be, is what I'm trying to say. Yes, superhero movies are doing very well right now. I mean, it's essentially a genre that really was birthed in the 9/11 era, where we had a couple pre-9/11 superhero movies, but Spider-Man and X-Men, 2000 or so, mm-hmm. Didn't create the comic book genre mm-hmm. to the point now where every year we're getting 2 or 3 comic book adaptations, mm-hmm. where it's becoming this, this big thing. So, because of the commercial structure of Hollywood, when you say things like, these successful movies are not art, well, is Martin Scorsese's voice or the more louder than the $1 billion raining down from the Avengers? And that's not me saying that that a terrible movie that makes a lot of money mm-hmm. has more artistic value or something than another movie. It's just simply saying that I think that when we talk about film as art, which I do think it is,
completely,
that you can't remove it from the commercial aspect of it, because it is true that that there is a demand for it regardless of its artistic value. Mona Lisa, I mean, she's ugly. People want to see the painting, but she's a 4 out of 10. So, So I do think I am a fan of some of Martin Scorsese's work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love it all, but that's just me.
Yeah.
That's me as a consumer choosing what I want to consume. I mean, it's true. He's got The Irishman coming mm-hmm. out, and at the same time, no kids are going to dress up as Jimmy Hoffa for Halloween.
Yeah.
So
it's. I think it comes from a place of them being naive too. Because let's be real, you definitely enjoy the Avengers movies more because you've seen the other ones, because you've seen the Ant-Mans and you've seen the Black Panthers and all of that. And without knowing these people personally, I just don't feel like Scorsese is watching Iron Man 1, 2, and 3, Cap 1, 2, and 3, going through and seeing that the reason that this creates almost over $5 billion in 2 Avengers movies is because of this thread that we've sown for 10 years, 11 years now. And if you're not going to participate in the whole thing, you're not going to get the satisfaction that people who do participate get.
Yeah.
Same thing with Jennifer Aniston and her buddies Paul Rudd, man. I'm crapping on the stuff, man, because Paul Rudd's out here playing Ant-Man and doing a fine job.
doing the Lord's work.
Yeah. I remember seeing an interview with Paul Rudd and him saying he was on one of the night talk shows, and he was telling his kids, I'm gonna be Ant-Man. I'm like, who's that? He's like, well, he's a superhero. I'm like, man, that sounds real stupid. And it's Chris Pratt's son's favorite superheroes, Captain America.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you often see his son in like Captain America
man.
stuff, and it's just the best. It's just the best. I think, there's going to be an apex at some point, and for me, it's just if the product's good, I'm going to keep watching, and I can say, hey, this wasn't good, or this was, and this and that, and like you said, we're going to vote with our dollar.
Well, I think this next phase is going to be the do or die phase. Because everything was leading to
Yeah,
Endgame.
yeah.
So everyone was watching. All eyes were on it. So now it's like, okay, what are you doing next? You've lost all your big hitters here.
I think you're right. And
so
I think
this is, phase 4 is going to be make or breaker for Marvel and Disney.
Coming out of
they'll
the-
make money.
yeah.
Who knows? Is it going to be another $2 billion franchise,
Coming out of the gate with Black Widow doesn't feel like the smart move unless whatever the
You're trying to ease us in.
whatever
Give us
the
a main
Russians
character,
have. If the Russians have something like cosmic, then we're going to be there, Or they're trying to set up. I wonder if they're going to set up stuff in Black Widow that will take place in Winter Soldier, Falcon.
Yeah.
And if you got stuff like that, because they really want to get that.
Oh yeah.
Get you to squeeze those fruits. To continue some of our stuff from the horror month, our previous 2 or 3 episodes have been horror themed. We have something kind of a little interesting that we wanted to talk about today, and just kind of have some fun with. What we're kind of calling the downside of being a monster. And I know what you may be thinking. Monsters don't have it good. They're hunted by the Winchesters. They're killed by the Ghostbusters. Whatever. But they also are supernatural beings. Some of them with fantastic powers. Some of them with just eternal life, which is just awesome. Or is it? And I'm kind of interested to see what you guys think. Give me a monster that you like, and then what you think the downside of being that monster is. Jordan, as our guest, why don't you go for it?
Yeah, well, one of my favorite monsters, and it's because it's kind of one of those iconic ones. It's been adapted so many ways, so many times. I love werewolves.
Yeah, okay.
American Werewolf in London, even American Werewolf in Paris. I actually, I dig it all. So, and I was thinking about this, what's kind of the bare, basic lore, and it's full moon. Turn into this creature, an insatiable hunger, that kind of thing. But it got me thinking, you just rip your clothes so much. And this comes from my clothes rip all the time, and I'm just a slightly overweight human. To be a werewolf, obviously the nice thing is, the clock is running, when there's going to be a full moon, you just need a farmer's almanac, and I can plan to anticipate. I can wear, I'd not going to wear my Spanx, whatever. but I started thinking, logistically, they get all of this hair. Then where does it go? When you're done being a werewolf, does it shed? Does it just fall off? Does it go back in your body? Because that's going to have, skin issues. But then, the more I thought about it, I was all right, so if I'm a werewolf, do I go to a doctor or the vet? Do I... Yeah, exactly, yeah. Do I eat kale or do I take heartworm medicine? So, all these different things. And then I was like, you know what? Ultimately, the big concern with a werewolf is obviously silver, because silver kills them. And, I just did a quick Google search. Silver is everywhere. It's in so many electronics. Honestly, you could be walking, you trip on your phone, you get a sharp edge of a Samsung, and then you're gone.
Oh, man.
So anyway, there's some cool positives, but ultimately at the end of the day, I think I'd rather sit this full moon out.
What are your what are your positives then? Because obviously, from what we get depicted in the lore, that for the cycle, for the full moon, you are this mindless killing machine.
Yeah.
Or are you a Lycan from Underworld, and you're able to kind of change at will as you get better?
Yeah, I think, obviously...
I thought the female werewolves were on the cycle. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
That is a horror movie franchise called Ginger Snaps.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that's really
it's,
good.
yeah, it's actually a thing.
heard
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
I don't do horror. I don't do horror.
Yeah, we'll talk later about how the body works. You're gonna experience some changes. During that time, when that full moon's out there, you're gonna get great cardio. So there's that pro. That's a benefit. We could all use to walk more, get our steps in. It is the kind of thing too where it's are you a mindless beast just ripping people apart or what have you? I think one of the pros is that unlike most other creatures, it's cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're going to be a werewolf and when you're not going to be a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that regard, like if you're a zombie, you're always a zombie.
Yeah.
So like in that regard, I think it's one of the few things. Or a ghost, you're always a ghost. But in that regard, I think concealing your identity would be easier. Mm-hmm. You go up to the mountains. Look at the calendar. I gotta go. Like I think it's actually more passable.
Yeah.
Than other types.
Are you the type of werewolf? If you are the werewolf, are you the type of werewolf that you chain yourself up for the cycle, or do you visit that post office that really kept you in line too long and just allowed the change to happen?
Yeah, exactly. So I just went through Penny Dreadful on Netflix,
mm-hmm.
and at the very end of the first season, and they introduced there's Mina, there's some classic literary monster characters that are involved, and they hunt this vampire and kill it. At the very end of the first season, Josh Hartnett's in this this place, and he's a shootist.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Okay, spoilers.
Yeah. He's a gun show, kind of like a traveling, almost like a Wild West sort of thing in England. And these two men come. They say his father's hired them to take him back home to America, and he wolfs out. And he's the werewolf. And we learn later he's a Talbot, which is the classic traditional Lon Chaney werewolf family line, that kind of thing. So then in the second, third season, we see how he manages it, and he chains himself up.
Nice.
It is the kind of thing where I thought to myself, that probably would be like the smart thing to do. Obviously you can reinforce it, anticipate it, that kind of thing. The only downside is you probably have to then explain yourself to somebody and be like, hey, 6 a.m. tomorrow, I'm going to be chained up. Like, we'll talk about it. I'll buy you a coffee.
Erik, you are my favorite monster. So, so I'm going to talk about what it sucks to be you. Give me a monster you like, and give me some issues you think you might have.
I got to go with my favorite, the vampire.
All right.
Yeah. Issue. I mean, say you are the person that did enjoy the sun, did enjoy being outside in the sun. I mean, that's going to just be taken away from you. Having eternal life. I mean, that's going to be a bummer. Having to watch all your friends and loved ones die over and over. Having to remake friends and remarry constantly.
Right.
Watch them go away. I guess you turn them.
Yeah, unless you turn them, but then it's like.
You're stuck with them.
You're stuck with them. And who's really meant to be together forever? Like, I can be with my lovely wife until I die.
Fair enough.
I'm cool with that, but there's
certain people you don't want to. Yeah, you're like, I'm good for 20 years on this friendship. I don't want this going further.
We got this going, babe. We got this going.
And then I think the worst of it would be that you get Twilight made after you. That's got to be the worst thing
insulting.
To be. It's insulting.
Yeah.
Big time. I mean, that's the one thing I couldn't abide.
I'm curious if do vampires have are they depressed a lot? Like, because they don't have any vitamin D?
Oh, sure. Seasonal affective disorder.
Are they depressed a lot, or do they get that when they feast on the crimson?
Sure. It probably depends on the vitamin D content of their victims.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, you gotta pay attention to where, you gotta know where your food's coming from. Okay?
Well, that's the other thing. Can vampires eat regular food?
I know some lore. I know some lore.
Some lore.
It's like there's no nutrition. There's
or it just tastes like ash. It tastes like ash. So that would be the one, right?
That would be the
worst.
You
couldn't do foodie. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just or if you feed on them after they eat it, does the blood taste like that a little bit? Because that would be cool.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you had asparagus.
Now my pee's gonna be weird.
No, I do think obviously, the Twilight issue, cultural appropriation, because everyone's a vampire when they're a kid. I don't know. For me, and obviously the whole daytime thing would obviously be a bummer, but this is from a logistical standpoint. At some point, you're gonna have to renew your license. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to go to the DMV.
Yeah,
they're not open at nighttime. What do you do? Yeah, you can fly around, right? But I don't know. That's probably gonna get tiring.
You're gonna have to get cash, man. You gotta be. Yeah, that especially in this day and age, you would have to have somebody I guess a familiar.
Well, there's the thing called it. There is porphyria, and that's called it's like the vampire disorder, quote unquote. It's where your sun is super sensitive to your skin's sensitive to the sun.
Oh, okay.
And it's a real thing. So I'm wondering how they deal with it.
Yeah.
Maybe an umbrella?
It's just cover up, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, they never talk about how vampires their bodies have to have waste. So do they always have like diarrhea? Are they, because they just have a liquid diet,
Good point.
And again, does somebody who's fat give me indigestion?
Right.
Is there a downside to, do you have to feed on virgins? What's that movie? Is it What We Do in the Shadows, and they're talking about like virgins?
Yeah.
He's like, they're asking him, why is it always virgins? He's like, what does he say? It's like a sandwich, right?
Yeah.
He's like, imagine, you get a sandwich and nobody had sex with that sandwich. I think that's a real thing. Like, people who are sick, people who have STDs.
Sure.
Is there something weird about their blood?
Oh, probably.
Like, it would be interesting, and I bet you what We Do in the Shadows, they probably they're going to touch on that in the show more.
Yeah.
Because it's just like so ridiculous.
Well, and it sounds totally stupid to say, but like I always had like an appreciation for like sometimes with horror, I don't like the explanation. Like, don't tell me, don't I don't want answers sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do. But I remember watching. I'd never read the comic graphic novel, but I remember seeing 30 Days of Night, and I was like, yeah. Like some vampire was like reading in a book, and they're like, oh, interesting. And so like from a practical standpoint, to have an uninterrupted month.
Yeah.
Of, you know what I mean? Like
feast orgy.
Yeah, it's like it's Mardi Gras without the beads.
The beads are your blood.
Yeah.
And and I think that those are, and we didn't discuss this at all really before we started this, and I was wondering what you guys were going to do, because I was thinking about it, the idea, because being a zombie just sucks in general. Like, they're nothing, and having Dave on the last episode tell us about the Return of the Living Dead storyline, where like the zombies are actually in pain, and the only way that they're not in pain is by eating, which I think is a fantastic way to treat that. But I wondered if you guys were going to do the big two kind of the horror genre, and I think that you guys hit the nail on the head with a lot of that. I wonder too with the vampires, if there's just like a point. We notice it now with music.
Sure.
We can't listen. What these kids listen to these days. You can't, like, where's the threshold when you're an immortal?
Sure.
When you're an eternal being? Do you have you not liked anything since like
1700s? Yeah, for sure.
Like those types of things will like drive me nuts. Where it's just like, the clothes,
Right.
Like I want to wear collars and poofy shit, and I can't do that because then I'll stand out like a sore thumb. I remember there's an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Faith was in it as well, and they're at that club. And they can tell which one is a vampire because he's like wearing very 70s stuff. Like he did not adapt with his time, and it put a bullseye on his head.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned like the music, because like I think like a vampire or an immortal like walking down the street and someone's like listening to Mozart and be like, it's better live.
Yeah,
my God. You know what I mean? Like,
if you like Mozart, you should see him live.
Amadeus. But I was also thinking too. I was like, if you're a Frankenstein's monster, like. The people that are, like, always, like, early adopters, like, I need the next iPhone and these things. If you're Frankenstein's monster, do you just, like, get unsatisfied? Like, you're like, man, this guy's got, like, really good biceps.
Yeah.
If I killed him and took his arms, and then, are you always, like, unsatisfied with your body?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about, like, body image issues.
Yeah, Adam has, like, body dysmorphia.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Except his is, like, valid, because it's, like, he's many different parts,
the guy's got a piece on him. Let's see what's going on here. I think, and to Eric, your point earlier about getting away from loved ones, I kind of like the idea of like it's a lease on this life,
Sure.
So man, that lease is up. It's time to start a new one.
Sure, fair enough.
I think that's what you'd have to live for.
Yeah.
Because I think you go a couple hundred years and really pining for your first few loves and everything, and then you just realize like, man, this is part of the game.
Yeah.
There's plenty of fish in the sea. I'm gonna eat a few. I'm gonna love a few, and we're gonna keep going. And I think that, kids, is the idea and the merit of eternal life. Let's do this thing over, man. I messed up the last time. All right. Guys, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what we're doing, please hit that subscribe button. Give us a like. Leave us a comment. Give us some downsides of what you think it is to be a monster. And we're not talking about like serial killers or anything weird like that, all right? Mythical beings. And maybe you can give us a couple pointers. Eric, what did you learn today?
Yeah, man, I think I learned that being a werewolf would probably be worse than being a vampire.
Yeah, I think that's what
they're not eternal. I don't think they live forever, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 7 years for every 1 human year.
There it is. Big Tuna, did you learn anything interesting today?
Yeah. I think when it comes to talking about like the upcoming stuff, we're talking about the Batman, we're talking about like Black Widow, which like has like no marketing for it. Like there's been no marketing really for the next phase of Marvel stuff. I think part of me, I try not to become pessimistic when it comes to the superhero stuff, because it's so easy when you've got 22, 23 like stories all combining into this sort of universe. But I haven't seen Joker yet. I've heard some people like it because it's like nothing that's been done. And because of that, I just hope that whether it's on Disney Plus or whether it's in film, I think just reflecting on what you said about the superhero burnout, I hope that we start seeing different stories told in different ways. And so that's my takeaway. If Matt Reeves applies that and gives us a different Batman, then I'm all for it. If we're getting the same stuff, then it just feels incestuous. It just feels like we're doing the superhero stuff to do the superhero stuff.
Yeah.
And at which point it becomes less and less art, I guess you might say.
I think that's a strong point. I learned that I need to look into more monsters. What else is going on out there? Where's the creatures from the Black Lagoon? Are aliens monsters? These are questions that keep me up at night, kids. Reach out. You can check us out on Instagram at the REC Podcast. It's actually at REC Podcast. You can check me out, Roman at Roman REC Podcast. Trying something new, kids. And thank you so much for tuning in. And we will catch you next time.